I wanted to make a thank you card for someone who I felt went out of her way to help me recently. I kept it simple because I wanted to send it out really soon and I can get real crazy sometimes with cards. But I knew she would appreciate a simple yet impactful design. So I opted to use just stamps and an embossing folder for this one. You can see that I cut the cardstock to size and then scored it down the middle. I'm now using a stamp platform to make a template because it can really save your butt later. You'll see what I mean. So once I got all the elements laid out, I folded the tool over to get the stamps to adhere to the clear side, and then I swapped the final cardstock for a scrap one to actually make the template. I inked the stamp with my favorite black ink, and this is where it's great to get your practice rounds in. You never know what you're going to get. No matter how hard I tried and pressed on the stamps, I could not get a clean image. Sometimes that will just happen. So then I decided to just stamp on each element individually. I took everything off except thanks and stamped that. You can see me repeating the process here, inking it on the clear side and then pressing down on the cardstock, which resulted in a great print of the word. I used that as a guide to place so much and stamped that, which led to a cleaner print of all the words. And then I needed my template to place my butterflies. So I'm then swapping out my real cardstock for that scrap piece of paper. This is where the template comes in, lining up the words so much so that I can place the butterflies in the places I had them originally. So I kept my original design, flipped the clear side over, grabbed the butterflies, swapped the scrap piece of paper for my real cardstock, and then we're doing the whole dance again, stamping each butterfly and then inking each butterfly and then stamping them on the cardstock. And look what we have. We have a clean print of all of the elements. So next is to do the embossing. Brought in my Sizzix machine, and this is where I kind of messed up. I had planned for the bird to be on the lower left, but I didn't realize that I had the folder flipped. So if I wanted the design to be raised, the bird should be on the lower right. It's fine. I decided the card was better balanced with the bird on the left, so now it's just de-embossed. It still looks pretty. The card is almost done. I made the official fold and brought in my 100% handmade stamp to stamp on the back of the card. It's just a generic stamp that I got from Amazon, but I use it so often. I also have a bow paper puncher that I used on yellow holographic paper as a personal sort of me signature, since I love bows and the color yellow. Now it's time to make the envelope. I chose this craft paper from my stash, brought out my envelope maker, and looked for the right size of paper to cut. The starting paper size for the envelope is determined by the card size. So for an A2 sized card, I needed an 8¼ inch square sheet of paper. And for those of you who are like me and don't have this terminology memorized, I always have to Google it. A1 is the size of paper you get when you fold an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper the short way. So you end up with an 8.5 by a 5.5 sheet, and then A2 is when you fold it in half again. So you end up with a 4¼ by 5.5 sheet, which is what the size of the card is. Okay, so once my paper is cut to size, I referred back to the chart to tell me where to place the paper. I lined it up to the correct marker on the left, punched at the top, and scored to the bottom right. If you've never seen this device in use before, get ready to be amazed because you're about to see some magic happen. So the way this works is that you punch and score on all four sides. And after you do the punch and score, and you'll see me do this, is you rotate the paper counterclockwise. And every time you do that, you have to line up the score mark with the score mark that's on the left side of the machine. And you start off with a square sheet of paper and you end up with a perfectly sized rectangle envelope. You can already start to see it forming. I'm now using the corner rounder on 3 of the corners. I don't like to do the 4th corner, and you'll see why in a second, but the corner rounder really makes for a nice presentation. Let's do a dry fit just to make sure I measured everything correctly, and I did, which is great. So now I'm folding in the corners, 3 of them, the 2 short sides along with what will end up being the bottom flap. And I don't like the way it sticks up even when the corner is rounded, so I always just cut it off where the side flaps meet the bottom flap, and I feel like it's just less pokey that way. Okay, almost done. All that's left to do is to glue these together. I'm using the Tombow double-sided sticky tape on the bottom, and because I can never be too sure, I add a layer of sticky tape on the side flaps as well. Then I'm good to fold it up, stick it all down, secure it all, and drop the card in to see how everything looks. And I always like to just take everything step by step, do checks like this along the way. I also like kind of opening it as if I'm the recipient to make sure that presentation is what I imagined. And it is. I really like what I did. I really think that the recipient will appreciate it and like it. So I will write a note and send it out expeditiously. Let me know in the comments if you would have done anything differently from what I did here, and keep an eye out for future videos. Bye.